Welcome to Business Class. I'm Steve Ekstrom from Learn Tourism, a nonprofit academy dedicated to advancing the tourism industry through innovative training and sustainable practices. Our mission? To empower travel professionals and communities with the knowledge they need to create meaningful, authentic, and sustainable tourism experiences. Ready to join us on this journey? Visit learntourism.org and start making a difference today. Good morning, kinds. Today's guest is Domenic Bravo, Executive Director at the Wyoming Office of Tourism. How are you?
Yeah, you're pretty good at coming up with good questions. I'm pretty easy.
So you've listened to some episodes?
Of course.
It's been a really cool learning experience because I've learned from everybody that I've talked to. I'm a sponge. I'm like, give me more. What is the favorite piece of advice you've ever received?
All right. I mean, probably the best one. I mean, we always, especially as leaders, I think we say we do it. The idea to be an active listener, to listen first before you speak. I think it's one of those that we, in this fast-paced world, we're always willing to jump in there in conversations and intersect our ideas. But sometimes it's nice just to listen. And I think that goes for even how we travel. As I've been talking to folks about the favorite part about being in Wyoming, connecting with everything we have here. And sometimes it's just to stop and listen and you feel really connected to the place you're in, which is kind of similar to getting connected to people.
What would you change about your work?
Change about the work, bureaucracy. Like it depends. Since I've been a public servant my whole career, I started as a law enforcement park ranger, was in charge of the state park division here in Wyoming for almost 11 years, worked at the University of Wyoming for a little while, was a local DMO with Business Sharing, and now back at the state. All the various layers of bureaucracy. Great, interesting challenge. I would just say it's one of those that I'm a type A personality. I like to see change happen quickly. And especially in today's day and age of technology, it's interesting how slow government works. And yet I think a lot of the decision makers get frustrated because they're like, well, why don't we see this measure change right now? Or why is this funding not on the ground right away? And it's at the end of the day, it's because, we have to jump through so many hoops to accomplish goals that maybe a private business wouldn't have to. But I think if I could change anything, it would probably be that.
What do you love most about what you do?
Even though it's almost contradictory to what I just said, I think that's how quickly you can see impact in this type of a role compared to maybe making widgets or something else. I've been touring the state and sometimes it's just as simple as a idea that in a collaborative meeting you come up with in a small community that elicits measured change really quickly. It could be like a wayfinding program and they turn it around in 6 months and then you see a specific change. An example from my Visit Cheyenne days is we partnered with state parks to put up some billboards for a historic site. It's actually a launch facility, peacekeeper launch facility. We put up these billboards and they increased their visitation something like between 40 and 50%, which is crazy. But just in one summer, they had this giant increase. So it's just nice to see those types of changes because I think the work we do makes a difference across the spectrum because, as you well know, that visitor dollar turns over almost threefold in a community. And to just be able to see that impact at a local level is just really satisfying and it makes a difference for sure.
How did you decide to get into tourism from working as a park ranger, working at the university? Why tourism?
Mainly because you get a taste of it and then you just love it. So plus it's thing. I think, obviously parks are tourism adjacent, so they run parallel as primary tourism assets. And I always have claimed that, especially here in Wyoming, a lot of our state parks and any other state would be a national park. That's just how phenomenal they are. You figure when you put up a Glendale State Park to a Yellowstone, obviously there's a difference, but a Glendale State Park compared to another reservoir park somewhere, but stand the test of time, which is fun. But the interesting thing for me is when I was on state parks with actually the local DMO, which was Visit Cheyenne, I actually served on the board and to just see the fun thing they were doing. And again, there was a lot less bureaucracy. David Rudloff, my predecessor, was just an icon in the industry. He did such amazing things. When he stepped down, I asked to be taken off the board and just said, I really want to try this. This is just something that seems cool. And yeah, I will say the timing wasn't great because I came in January of 2020. So a couple months later, got really interesting, but we won a lot of awards and a lot of accolades. mainly because we didn't take our foot off the gas pedal. We found other ways to support our local restaurants, our local businesses. We created our own events. Our Hell Was Rodeo, when our largest rodeo had to close for that year, our Shine for 2 Days closed. We created our Hell Was Rodeo series, which put us in a whole different trajectory. As a matter of fact, I was talking with the New Orleans CEO at a luncheon recently, and he actually remembered a talk I gave at Destinations International about putting on events, which he then started putting on events. So it's just kind of fun to see how all of those things happen. As quickly as I dived into tourism, I was, all in, got involved in all the various organizations, started doing a lot of different things. And yeah, I mean, it's a passion and a love of mine. I'll never forget my parks books because, I did that for almost 20 years too. So I definitely have a passion for outdoor recreation and the parks world. But this tourism thing is a really unique animal that, like I said, has some substantial impact to communities and to states and to the nation.
Tourism is an interesting industry because it's like an octopus. It reaches in all different directions and touches all different types of businesses and types of organizations and people at different levels. How will you measure your success in the state office?
I think it's especially over the last 10 years as I've got involved in this, we went from destination marketing organizations to now destination management organization, on some levels, just a destination organization. And what does that mean? And I think for me, especially with the advent of how much data and technology we have available to us, how AI is in place, I think it's being able to be extraordinarily strategic and thoughtful in how we actually manage our destination. And with that being our state, I think we're really at that precipice to do some really cool things. There's places that definitely are overloved in certain times of the year. We're actually working on a visitor management system that can leverage technology that we can do. One, be really smart about how we do pre-planning. We're already using AI and some stuff on how people plan their itineraries, but we're also looking at trying to get them in market so we can be really thoughtful. As we notice you're going to Yellowstone and it's going to be really busy at 8 a.m. Why don't you stay at Thermopolis for the day and then go tomorrow? That Wednesday is going to be much nicer than the Tuesday is going to be, whatever. But it's being able to move people around our state. There are places that definitely should utilize more of the visitor economy and are poised to do so, but we just have to be really strategic. So if I was successful, it'd be able to balance that idea of there's definitely this great equilibrium of maximizing the tourism economy while minimizing that impact to both the resource. And when I say resource, I'm talking not just the natural one, but our residents, our constituencies and all that. There's this sweet spot. And I think right now, with the way we have data, access to technology, and really thoughtful outreach, especially in a state like ours, where we're the ninth largest state by landmass, with the least population. So can be a really great case study and a really great test case for something like this. So if that was success, that'd be the primary. But I think outside of that is, again, since we have so many rural communities, just being able to get them up to the same level as some of our larger communities. And again, I think we're really poised and primed to be able to do some pretty fun things in that. So during my tenure, at least those are the two primary things I can accomplish while I'm here.
I like that. There's a lot that's going on right now, the stewardship in teaching visitors how to be better visitors, as much as it is teaching the community how to be more welcoming and striking that balance. And I think technology comes into play, education comes into play. What's something you'd like to learn in the coming year? It could be work related or not.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I think there's so many things that I always found that if you think you know everything, you don't know anything at all. And it's kind of that same adage of, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. So, I mean, I think I'm just a constant student of the world, trying to stay up with some of the AI technology. Luckily, folks in your sphere are doing a lot in that space. And a lot of my colleagues across the country are doing some really cool things. So just trying to stay on that. But even simple stuff in my new role, I get to do a little bit of international travel. So I'm always a little embarrassed that most of our friends across the world speak like 5 languages and we're barely good at our own. I'd love to learn a couple different languages. So I play with that a little bit. I wish I was as good as my son is because he seems to pick up languages a lot faster than I do. But other than that, I do everything under the sun. I listen to some podcasts. I like the master class things that they have. I go to a lot of webinars. So I think I'm just always constantly trying to stay as fresh on new trends and stay up with as much information as I can. So yeah, I would say just anything and everything I can that I can fit it into my schedules.
I realized later that as much as I love travel and all of the elements that go into travel, all of those experiences that you built, it's the fact that I got to learn from everything along the way. I'm a sponge. Just me knowledge. Who do you look up to in the industry? Before we dive back in, a quick word from our sponsor, Learn Tourism, the nonprofit academy, where we're dedicated to transforming the tourism industry with 4 key services: our cutting edge learning experience platform, which offers robust analytics and seamless updates, our custom course development, which ensures tailored learning solutions, subject matter experts who provide deep insights and valuable knowledge, and of course, our engaging speakers who are here to inspire and educate with impactful presentations. Discover how we can elevate your tourism education at learntourism.org.
There are so many powerhouses I can list off. I mean, everyone I've been involved with at Death Issues International, all the board folks on there, U.S. Travel, Brand USA, folks here at a local level. Really love working for our current governor, although he's leaving here in November. Some of my past colleagues, I've always felt that you could have mentors at any level. I think a lot of folks think that you always have to have mentors that are up above you in some type of classification, but I've had numerous mentors that have been my employees. My vice president that now is the CEO of Visit Cheyenne, he's been great. The two now is the director of state parks here in Wyoming and the deputy director. They were my region managers when I first worked there, and they're obviously moved up the ranks, but they were phenomenally mentors when I was in my role. So I think like you said, I think from that nerd status of being a sponge, I've been very blessed and fortunate that I've gotten to work with just amazing people across all spectrums of my career. And I would really consider pretty much all of them at that mentor status because they have always changed me both personally and professionally for the better. So I think that's definitely the definition of a mentor.
How would you describe your leadership style?
I always come back to servant leadership. It's one of those things that have always stuck with me, even when I was starting my career at 22 as a park ranger, and then was pretty much catapulted. I did that for 3 years, quickly moved into a supervisory role. And it was one of those things that I think if you don't know and understand what your employees' needs are, what their wants are, what they're going through in life, and not willing to get into the trenches with them, then can you truly lead that organization? And I think I've always stayed in that space. Now through the years, I've even taught leadership classes at the community college level and the university level. So there are obviously other ones that I can switch in and out of pretty easily because you'll always have people are people. So you always have to have something different. But I think that servant leadership is what has always been in my space for sure.
Do you have a favorite book?
I think that's the hard question.
I know, right? We're really diving deep.
And I think of ones on my shelf, things I reread. Talking about being nerd-like, I'm a Tolkien fan, so that might be high on my list of things, but that would be more than one book. So also, remember when the kids were little, it was fun to read all the Harry Potter series out loud, even with my wife meeting with me back and forth. So that was kind of, so any of those two might be in the space just because it elicits memories of throughout my lifetime.
How do you hope your kids are like you?
I guess I would say that they care about people and that they always strive to make a difference in the world.
It's the time of year when a lot of college kids are graduating and trying to figure out what's next. What advice would you have for them?
I hate to be cliche, but it's make sure you find something that you love, that you're passionate about, and never work a day in your life. So I think it's not work if you are really passionate about the thing you do. I get it, trying to find that job that pays a big paycheck and pays the bills is obviously something that makes the world go round. But if you don't love what you do, having to wake up in the morning, you just won't be as excited. Plus, I'm not sure it's as healthy a lifestyle for yourself if you don't enjoy it. And the opportunities will come. I think if you live your life by that, then those big paychecks and those great opportunities will come again if you're doing something that you're very passionate about, because that will reflect in your work.
Tell me about a situation that didn't quite go as planned and how it worked out. Aside from starting work with a DMO 3 months before COVID strikes.
I guess the brief stint I did at the university, and I love exciting opportunities, exciting challenges. It was one of those that great opportunity came my way. It's not that I wanted to leave state parks and the leadership role I had, but I also like building things. So I'd helped with other colleagues, including my predecessor in this position, to create the outdoor rec and tourism management degree program at the University of Wyoming. And to be able to go and be a professor and, teach young minds and do these things was just fantastic. But for that whole semester, I found really quickly that the back end side of the stuff, the devil in the details, even more of the bureaucracy at, university level to get things accomplished was just not a great fit for my personality. So I would say that was why I was pretty eager to step into other roles. Again, loved it. Many of the students I actually taught ended up getting some amazing jobs in the state. We still interact. It's great to see where they grew into their roles now as young leaders in this industry themselves. But I would say that didn't work out quite as I thought. But I'm a strategic risk taker. So at the end of the day, when I say it didn't work out, it added to things that built me professionally and personally, and was still a great part of the resume, even though it was only about a semester that I was in that position. But I taught probably a good 2 years in that role.
I'm seeing a little bit of a trend. There's, of course, the servant leadership, and then help to encourage other people and to help other people develop. I'm also seeing personal joy and satisfaction in seeing projects come to life. And I'm seeing that you've had to learn to balance bureaucracy. What is the key to dealing with bureaucracy in any role in the destination space?
First of all, they're great MCATs, so that's always good. He good at picking up stuff. That's another good skill, but sometimes that's an innate one. It's hard to teach that piece. Sometimes people just have it. I don't think I'm in that same space. I think that does kind of having that high EI, being able to communicate with people in that first conversation, know and understand them. Because the decision makers that kind of create the bureaucracy, as you build relationships, that's kind of like advocacy 101 is that every single role I've had is I'm on the road. I'm out there meeting with local leaders and legislators and governor's office and directors people, which many of them I've known forever, to just rekindle that relationship. And I think that's how I guess I'd also say educate in a way that's not forceful. It's not that I'm trying to impose what I feel is the best way to do stuff, but it's that constant relationship building over time that breaks down the barriers of bureaucracy. So when I say like we have 5 steps, we need to just reduce it down to 1. And you have a trust there that says, okay, the reason we have this is usually because we can't trust the person or the process. Trust you. Let's see if we can get from, just put 1 step in this versus 5 is always a nice piece. And I guess I will say our newest marketing campaign is called Mavericks Wanted. I'm also a little bit of a maverick. I will push the limit. I mean, I'll do it very strategically. I'll do it within the legal boundaries. Most AGs and all of our attorneys I've called many times, and even some of our risk managers, I'm like, hey, I have an idea. I need to get it to, here's my goal. I need your help in getting it legally there. So it caused a lot of stress to an attorney and risk managers over the years. But I think if you don't, then you just kind of stick in that quagmire. So I would say, if you have an idea, it's getting stuck and it's being held up, push the limits. Again, do it so you don't, violate any type of statutes or policies or anything. But you'll find that many of those things are in place because someone made a mistake 500 years ago and they just keep it in place. And now that just adds the layers of bureaucracy and government. I try to break down those barriers. Those are the 2 things: continuously communicate and build our relationships to hopefully gain that trust, because that helps remove some of the bureaucracy layers. And then 2, push the limits a little bit, because sometimes government creates those layers because there's always like one bad apple. I always find those funny signs where it's like, don't stick your hand out the thing or you'll get bit by a bear. It's like, well, someone had to have done it because obviously people don't have to sign there. But that's kind of how government runs. One person makes a mistake and now we need a new policy around it versus fix the core problem and not have to have all that layer of bureaucracy. Those would be my big advice things.
And there, I think you're tapping into a couple different components of it. That is, one, to earn the trust of people around you. Two is to have a clear vision for what you need to accomplish. And the third is that personal integrity. What advice would you have for somebody who is getting started and needs to build those three? Or some working at a DMO feels kind of stuck at the level that they're at.
I would hope that your leadership would know and understand that, especially for new generations. Sometimes there's two components. One, kind of always feel like they should be able to jump from entry level to CEO, the day they come in. And I'm sorry, that's just not always the case. Don't get me wrong. I've had some young folks and I kind of hope that they become CEOs on the fast track. But two, they also are quiet about it. So there's like two parts. Sometimes young people are very verbal about it and maybe need to chill out a little bit. I always hate it because I never say you need to earn your seat at the table. They do need to do their time. But on the flip side, some of folks in certain generations just aren't vocal about it. Let your leadership know that, I want to move up in this organization. I'm passionate about this industry. I'm passionate about what we're doing. I realize there may not be a small DMO. I realize there may not be opportunities for me to progress here, but I do want to add to my resume. I want to do knowledge. I want to volunteer and help for things and big picture stuff. And a good leader, I hope on the flip side, advice would be to all the leaders out there is, latch onto that. Been really fortunate. I've had folks to say, I'd love to have your job in 5 years. Great. Let's put you on a succession plan that if that is feasible, we make that happen. What does that look like for training? What does that look like for opportunities? Even here, like moving up in state government is really hard because if you really love your job, like, are you going to leave when you're getting state pension and all that stuff? So what I have found is creating opportunities for staff for like leadership roles. Like we created, internal task force for them to do some outside the box things. Like she's a CFO, but she's actually running a task force on events, like statewide events. So she leads a group that's looking at trying to bring in impactful events to our entire state. Just doing things like that, I think is really critical. So it's a flip side advice to also the leaders out there to latch on to folks. But I would definitely say for those wanting to progress in this, and then like you said earlier on and what we've been talking about, be a sponge. There are so many folks out there, so much information available. Dive into it, learn about it, know and understand it, because those are the folks that stand out. Get involved, be involved in all the different organizations, volunteer for committees and serve on things, get your voice out there. You're as much of a brand manager for yourself as you are for the entity you work for. So those are all the big ones that would ensure you catapult yourself into future leadership roles.
What did I not ask that you wish I did?
I think you are pretty comprehensive in your questions. You even caught me off guard with the book one, so that's pretty good.
All right. What would you like to ask me?
Well, obviously you have a passion for the industry. So I guess I'll flip it around on you and ask you what's your favorite.
So there are 3 books that come immediately to mind as having been life-changing. When I was much younger, The Art of Happiness, which was written by a Western psychiatrist alongside the Dalai Lama. The second would be a silly workbook that relates to building your resume. And the workbook was called Damn Good Resumes. And what it did is it helped people shift from a chronological resume to one that's really based on skills and skills that can be transferable. So you're showing an employer what you can do, not just where you. And the third, and maybe this is 2 together, Danny Myers and, oh my gosh, I forget his name, but I'm going to add it later on, Unusual Hospitality, Will Guidara. And they both work together to build the Union Square Hospitality Group. And all of those things come back to what I've identified as the 3 components of the culture of the company. And it's finding joy in what you do, delivering kindness in how you do it, and continuing to learn. So those books help shape.
Pretty low that. I guess I didn't think about workbooks because I probably would have done the first one I ever read in my career was First Break All the Rules. Can't remember the author. And I guess that's kind of interesting that it's not about workbooks that I've read. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I've recommended that to a lot of people. And it's just a mind shift. If you think about these are all the places I've worked, well, it doesn't really paint the picture for who you can be. Domenic, thank you for joining me on the Business Class Podcast. Can't wait to see you at the Destinations International Conference in just a couple weeks. And appreciate the great work that you're doing for the people in the state of Wyoming. Thanks for tuning in to Business Class. This episode was brought to you by Learn Tourism, the nonprofit academy where we advance the tourism industry with cutting-edge training and sustainable practices. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to visit learntourism.org to learn more about our programs and how you can get involved. Until next time, stay curious, continue learning and making a difference through tourism.